have a story to tell. Everyone is different as well. You have something to say. Your story matters too. Your story matters too.
Welcome to this episode of My Story Matters. This is going to be an exciting one. We have a new upcoming actress. Her name is Jocelyn Robitaille, and a very well-known seasoned actress, Leslie McCurdy. Enjoy this one, folks. My Story Matters.
Hello, I'm Jocelyn Robitaille from WEC, and I'm here with Leslie McCurdy, and we're going to be having a conversation. So I'm going to start off by asking you a couple questions.
All right.
So what do you do for work?
Well, I'm an actress and a playwright, but I do one-woman plays about Black women, historical figures, and I research them, and I write the plays, and I travel across Canada and the United States performing them.
Nice. What was your favorite play that you've written?
The first play that I wrote for myself, The Spirit of Harriet Tubman, is still my favorite. I've been doing it now for 27 years, and I wrote it all in a rush because I had a series of performances scheduled, and I was doing a play that somebody else had written originally, and then I got word from the playwright's lawyer saying I could not do that play anymore. I could not afford to cancel the bookings that I had. I was 10 shows up in Ottawa. So in the time that I had, which was about a month, I wrote the new play, figured out how to perform it, got everything all together, and took it on tour to meet that commitment. And like I said, 27 years later.
Nice. What inspired you to write it?
If I'm going to be honest, I had to eat. Like I said, I could not afford to not make that commitment. So, plus, Harriet Tubman is my personal hero.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was asked to do this other play, I thought it very much a privilege to be able to share her story in that way. And I wanted to be able to continue doing that. So I had sort of been thinking in my head about how I would tell the story myself, because the other playwright had her own vision and it wasn't exactly mine. So when it came down to that's what I had to do, that's what I did.
Yeah. Well, that's good. What about her story, really resonates with you?
Well, when I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, I hate aging myself, there was nothing taught in our classes about Black people in history. I never saw any representation of myself anywhere. In fact, I remember coming home to my mom and her making her way up to the school to take books out of the curriculum that were teaching about Black people being inferior or less capable in any kind of way. But she would always mention to us when we had projects, she would always talk to us about, Black heroes and that we should know about. And Harriet Tubman was one that she had mentioned to me that I should look into. And specifically one year, my friend and I, one of my friends and I at school were having a contest to see which one of us could read the most books from our school library one year. And I would go into the library every night and pick a book. That's when I read a lot of Beezus and Ramona and Agatha Christie. And one day I came across this book called Harriet Tubman, Conductor on the Underground Railroad. And I took that book home and I kept it and read it all the way through 3 nights because I was so amazed with this Harriet Tubman, and she's always been my personal hero since that time.
Nice. What inspired you to get into the arts?
Well, I think I was born a dancer. Maybe before I was born I was dancing, kicking my mom in the ribs and things. And I had worked on a dance career for quite a while. I studied ballet for from when I was 8 to when I was 13. And then I wasn't able to progress any further with my studies here locally. So I did gymnastics, and I competed as a gymnast in high school for many years. But then I went to Michigan State University briefly, and I saw the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater perform there. And when I saw that, I was like, no, I still want to be a dancer. And I actually quit school, ran away from home, until my parents were like, okay, you can be a dancer, but you're going to have to go to school and do that. And I discovered that there was a dance program at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, which is close by. And so I ended up going there and getting my degree in dance. And as I said, after years of working on it, I was on my way to New York to dance with the Ailey Company. It was the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater that I was finally getting a chance to get into, and I tripped and fractured my hip.
Oh,
And that's how I fell into acting.
I love it.
I don't love it, but hey, it's my story.
It's a good story.
It's true, so.
Yeah. So you've written many one-woman plays.
Yes.
You like writing?
Yeah, I guess. When I was a child, I always liked to read and write. I would write poetries and short stories and things, but I never looked at that as a vocation. Although my sister at one time, I think she cursed me kind of, because she told me that she was mad at me because even if something happened to me and I couldn't dance, I'd still be able to write. And when I thought about it later, I was like, because that actually happened. So, but yeah, I do enjoy writing. I enjoy doing the research. I didn't like history when I was young because, again, like I said, it didn't relate to me. But now I look into things that I do find relate to me, and not only to me, but they teach lessons and give you information that helps to be critical in thinking and observing, thinking about and observing the things that are going on in our world today. So that's why I enjoy doing the work. And after my Harriet Tubman play, I have another play that I wrote at the request of students in schools, because I started out performing in schools. You know, they thought that was my performances were a really cool way to learn history. So the second play that I wrote is something called Things My Four Sisters Saw, and it's about 4 Black women that impacted Canadian history. And I sort of give a general survey of the circumstances of Black people in Canada through about 1965. At the same time that I tell their stories. And then I wrote what I call Little Kid Harriet Tubman, a treatment of Harriet Tubman's story I call Harriet is My Hero, and that's for kindergartens through grade 2. And through Harriet Tubman's story, I try to teach them to become a hero and what to look for in a hero. And then, as our friend Ian Smith mentioned, there was a play that I did called Lady, which was Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, about Billie Holiday, a jazz vocalist and pioneer from the early 20th century. And since then I've written my own play about her that I call Lady Ain't Singin' No Blues. And I am currently just finishing up a script of a show called The Darktown Strutters Ball that is a reimagination of something that I wrote some years ago called The Shelton Brooks Darktown Strutters Review and Ball. And that show is going to be premiering at Theatre Orangeville in Orangeville, Ontario in April.
Nice. Oh, excited to see that.
Yeah, well, you'll have to come up and check it out.
What's an interesting fact that people might not know about you?
I have a stuffed animal collection.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been collecting stuffed animals, and I have bins in my basement full of them, shelves in my bedroom full of them, my bed covered with them. But yeah, I love stuffed animals.
Stuffed animals are really fun. Yeah. What was your living situation like growing up?
Oh, my living situation. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. And as the firstborn girl, I was given a lot of responsibility. In some ways I had like a dream, magical childhood, and in some ways it was very, very difficult. I grew up in South Windsor before St. Clair College was there, so there were woods and fields and things for us to play in. And we would take adventures and ride bikes. And, these days, they call it a gang when, 5 to 10 kids hang out. But we were just the neighborhood kids hanging out. Lived right beside a school with a baseball diamond and stuff. So right beside a ditch that we could explore. So, we were always exploring and playing and climbing trees and playing games at the school, baseball, or climbing up on the roof of the school and hanging out up there. I mean, in some ways it was a dream childhood, the kind that you read about with all these kind of adventures. In fact, I have a sister who said she wants to write about some of our adventures. But then on the other hand, there were some difficulties because my parents separated and divorced when I was very young. And that was rare at that time. And they didn't have the kind of supports and things that they have now for young people that are going through that kind of thing. And they really didn't have the understanding about how that can impact upon families. So there were a lot of struggles associated with that I had to deal with as well.
How did that shape you?
Well, it made me really responsible because I had to be responsible for my siblings a lot, and it made it so that I can handle a lot of business because I had to handle my school business, some of the household business around the house. So, I grew up very quickly. Um, um, it might have made me a little bit too independent because I came to not trust people in relationships too well, and then, that's something I'm trying to work on. But it also allowed me the time to, like, my parents still made the investment in our dancing and our gymnastics and our track and field and all the activities that we had to do. And I think, all of that sort of made me the person I am now, who takes on a lot of stuff, creates my own independent work, and, manages to juggle a lot of activities and responsibilities at the same time.
So you're independent. You run your own company. What's that like?
Yeah, my company is called Little Old Me Productions because, as I said, I write my own shows and I produce my own shows. I tour by myself with my shows. I do have a couple of agents. I have an agency in Ottawa where I made my earlier commitment with my show. They're called MASK, Multicultural Artists for Schools and Communities, and they book me in schools across Ontario, which used to be the main part of my work, to going to schools in Toronto, Ottawa, Windsor, Nova Scotia. But since COVID, I got a great new agent in the States, and now I'm touring in the United States. I am a dual citizen, going to theaters and performing in wonderful, beautiful theaters and meeting just wonderful people all over the place. So yeah, that's just little old me doing my thing. And that name came because in 2011, I was in the National Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I was talking on the phone with a gentleman, that wanted my production notes, and he's like, "What's the name of your production company?" I said, "I don't have a production company, it's just Little Old Me." He's like, "Okay, Little Old Me Productions." So I kept it.
That's a good name.
Yeah, I like it.
It's catchy.
It works. Yeah. It's true.
I like it.
So I understand that you're a performer yourself. You're doing a show, Grease, I understand?
Yes.
Yeah, and what part are you playing in that?
I am Eugene in Greece with a local community theater company called WeCap.
So you sing and dance and act too?
Yes.
Yeah, I love singing and dancing and acting. As I said, I started out as a dancer. But are you like more of a singer? Which would you say you're more of an actor, a dancer, or a singer?
I am relatively more strong in my singing and acting abilities, but I can catch on to
move
dancing
well.
pretty well, yes.
Yeah, very good, because it's important to, one of the things I always tell young people about is, especially trying to get into this business, and it is a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't really appreciate the fact that it's show business. Everyone wants to do the show, sing, dance, act, have a good time, right? But part of being in the business is being as marketable as possible. So yeah, being proficient as a dancer, actor, and a singer means that you are more marketable to a potential director, producer than someone who just sings, just acts, or just dances. So very good. Make sure you work on developing all of those skills equally. Being
a triple threat is very important in today's day and age when it comes to being in this industry.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and it takes work. So if you work on it, you can get there.
How do you work on your skills? How do you like to work on your building your skills up?
Well, I always I do vocal warm-ups and stuff. Probably not as much as I should. And our friend Ian, he's one of my vocal coaches, and I really need to get with him and get some work. Hello. But I take dance classes when I can. I teach dance. I was a part of a dance company for mature dancers, but it folded during COVID, so I'm really missing doing that. But I've taken up hot yoga because I find that makes a similar workout for my body as far as stretching and doing balancing and strength exercise and stuff. So I do that. In the summer, I ride my bike to keep my cardio up. Just all of those things to try and keep my, think of my body as my instrument. And as a performer, your body is your instrument. So you have to do those things that'll keep it tuned and sharp and in shape. So, yeah, that's what I work on doing, basically, physically. Trying to eat right. Got to make sure you eat right. I'm on I maintain a fairly strict diet because I found that eating a lot of starches and sugars causes mucus in my head and my voice, and I don't want that around that. And Lots and lots of water. The fountain of youth is water. And sleep. You know, a lot of people, especially these days, there are so many distractions going on in the world, we don't sleep. You know, we're afraid we're going to miss something on our phone or whatever, right? But in my observation, it seems to me that sleep must be essential because every single organism on Earth has a sleep function to its existence. And when you're asleep, you are entirely vulnerable to whatever it is can prey upon you. Yet that hasn't evolved out of us, right? So it must be really, really important. So make sure you get lots of sleep.
Yeah, and like our bodies need a lot of rest to just recuperate after a day's whatever we put it through.
Yeah.
And with being like very active, either with singing, dancing, or just being physically active, your body needs a lot of that rest to just recuperate and get stronger.
And you know what's something that's really cool about the human body? The more you push it, the stronger it becomes. Like, you know, your mind, okay, the mind's a terrible thing to waste. Say you're getting ready to go out and run. Your brain is going to tell you you are tired after 20 steps. But your body, as a machine, could probably do 100. And maybe that's your first day, right? Then you go out your second day. After you go 10 steps, because your mind knows what's coming tomorrow, what you did yesterday, after 10 steps, it's going to tell you, no, I'm tired, I can't do this. But you go do it again, and your body's going to do 150 steps because your body is now ready for it, and it's going to like rev up for the work you're doing. So really, the more work you do to keep your body in shape, the more your body rises to the challenge of meeting it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and also that's you gotta show up to get to that state. You gotta show up every day and put in the work as well.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people, you know, some people they want something for nothing, but most things that come cheap don't last, and you know they're not real. And if you don't appreciate them like you do when you've really worked for something, you take it for granted, and often then it's lost to you. You know, you work hard on something and you feel the reward of knowing you've worked hard. You keep working hard, right? And then you keep maintaining the results of the work that you put in.
It builds a habit.
Yeah, exactly.
And when it's a habit, it's easier to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm reading a book on habits.
Or are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to break a couple. Oh!
Well, it's good. It's good to learn about how to build and break down habits, especially when in life.
And what does it say? You're reading the book. Isn't it like 3 weeks or 3 months before something becomes a habit? It's not that long if you just commit to it.
It's only like a month.
Yeah, I know it's not that long. You would think it's forever, but...
But it's as long as you show up every day. And
right.
You gotta show up.
Right?
Yeah.
Life is a habit.
Yeah. It's very poetic of you. Yes. So you were talking about how when you were younger you did a lot of it, like you went out and adventured, you did all that stuff. Even if it's not when you were younger, what has been your life's greatest adventure?
Man, every day is an adventure. In fact, I have a friend that used to travel with me and said, "Oh, Leslie, always with you, it's another great adventure." But I'll tell you about one. It was an adventure, and I said I was never going to do it again. When I was first starting out, I toured the interior of British Columbia by myself in the winter.
Wow.
And that meant driving through the mountains by myself in the winter. And there was one point where I was going from point A to point B. I can't remember the towns. I was doing a lot of small towns. And the only route was up through the mountains. And so I proceeded, up the route. And as I was going, it started snowing. And the further I went, which was up through the mountains, the higher elevation, the thicker the snow, the narrower the road, the steeper the cliff. And just before I lost all contact with all radio and everything while I was going through, there was a story about them having recovered the body of a woman who had been lost the winter before.
No.
I did make it through. I was scared to death because trucks would go barreling by me. And I was like, because I'm in a rental car. Oh, and going up, there was a sign that said, "Don't go any further without chains." And I'm like, what are chains? So yeah, that was one of my scarier adventures. I said, man, they can keep, because people always say, well, isn't it beautiful in British Columbia? I'm like, yeah, they can keep that beauty on a postcard, because I don't need to see it firsthand by myself again.
I mean, that's fair.
And then when I went to Alaska one time, and it was funny because there was a woman who was one of my hosts, and I wanted to see a moose.
Mhm.
So she drove me after the performance. We drove maybe for an hour all around the outskirts of the city looking for moose. Then we pulled up to my hotel, and there was the moose right there in the parking lot. And that sucker was big, man. It was bigger than the van beside it. It didn't have the horns and everything because it wasn't the right time of year. And it was probably I think they said it's the females that grow the horns in mooses. I'm not sure. I can't be sure. But yeah, no, that big old moose was right there waiting for me to come home.
That's gold.
I thought it was fun.
That moose knows comedic timing.
Exactly. That should be so good. Let me see if there's anything else I can think of. Going to England and performing there in London in London's West End for a theater festival that an acquaintance of mine set up. That was fun. Let's see, what else? I don't know. I just have so many fun trips. I mean, they're all, to me, wonderful adventures because I meet such wonderful people and I go to new places. So I've seen quite a bit of Canada and the United States with my tour. A lot of it's flyover. Lately, I've been flying to California a lot. I'm not complaining about that at all. But yeah, I travel a lot, and I think that's one of the best parts of my job.
Yeah. Travel is a beautiful experience. It can be.
It is. It is. I really enjoy it. Like I said, you meet wonderful people everywhere you go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What life lessons have you learned in your life that you would like to pass on?
Don't let fear stand in your way. When I first finished University of Michigan, a dance program, I should have gone directly to New York, but I was afraid I wasn't good enough. And so I thought I would stay and work and get good enough. I learned later, not only was I good enough, it was probably exactly the place I should have been. But I guess not, because I also believe that your life ends up the way it's meant to. And so I accept and I'm extremely grateful to be in the place that I am in. Right? So I would say that. But don't let fear stop you. Never give up. I think too often in our world, we speak of failure as something that's bad, that's an ending. But failure is first attempt in learning, if you look at it as that acronym. And when you think about it, most people who are what they call it, inventors and things that we hear of today, they tried something 1,000 times before they got the one that worked, right? Mm-hmm. And I think too often we compare ourselves to other people because some people, their career happens overnight. Some people, it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And we're always so worried that I think we give up sometimes because we expect that something should happen by a certain time, and we give up. And the day we give up might have been the day before we were going to get our break, right? Also, a break is when preparation meets opportunity. So always make sure that you're prepared for your opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I would say those 3 things. Don't be afraid. Never give up. Be prepared for your opportunities.
Good. Very good. Yeah. Recently, I've been thinking of the motto or the song, whichever you want to call it. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be.
Yes.
That's what I've been kind of living by right now. Do you have a life motto?
Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Yeah, that's something an uncle that I had when I was younger. I say that I had because he and my aunt divorced. So I didn't know him after that. But yeah, that's something he used to always say, ain't nothing to it but to do it. And that's what I think a lot of times. Like, okay, well, if you want to get it done, go ahead and do it. And you don't know if you can do it until you try. So that's might be another one where nothing beats a failure than a try. Yeah. So, yeah.
Very nice ones. Good choices.
Simple, runs off the tongue quickly.
They're catchy.
Yeah, thanks.
What are your hopes and dreams for yourself?
I plan and hope and dream to live to be 144. That's my goal. No. I mean, not entirely no, because, that would be cool.
Well, I hope that for you.
Yeah, right, thank you. I like to continue doing the work that I'm doing. I hope that I continue to be blessed to be able to work as an independent artist, to be able to create work that's relevant and inspires people. And I'm hopeful also to transition into possibly doing some TV and film work. I've done a little bit along the lines along the way in my career, and I've been told by production people who observed it that I'm good at the craft. There's just not a lot of that work around here that I can do. I am like SAG, ACTRA, so I can't do non-union work, and there's only non-union work here. And because of my own work schedule, doing my own stuff, I don't usually pursue a lot of the film and TV work going on around me. Although I do try a few auditions every year, but that's what I would eventually like to segue in it. But I'd like to do it the cool way, where someone comes and sees me and wants me in the show, rather than I have to audition, because I don't audition well. That's another skill that takes a lot of practice, and I don't have a lot of practice since I do my own work.
Yeah.
But that's what I would like to do. I'd like to be able to reinvent myself as a performer as long as I can. Well, let me ask you a question now.
Yeah.
As we were saying before, that you're a young actor getting ready to go into the career. You've asked me a few things, I think, along the way regarding that. But as a young performer, it's not often that we get to talk to somebody, especially locally, that's actually in the business. Anything that you'd like to ask me?
Well, what do you see with the rise of AI and that in the entertainment industry? What do you think is going to happen with that?
Yeah, it's a little scary because, the preponderance of AI could put a lot of people in a lot of areas to the sidelines, out of work. So yeah, that is something disconcerting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I am really glad that the Screen Actors Guild, in fighting for a new contract for actors in Hollywood, film actors, fought to keep AI limited so far to this point. Because they wanted to do something like, especially for extras, capture your image, pay you once, and then use that image forever. I'm like, hello? No. So there are going to be a lot of issues that AI is going to present. A lot of discrepancies that are going to have to be worked out. So it does make me a little nervous, but it also has the potential to really enhance creative abilities for people that know how to use it to develop like scenery and stuff like that.
Because it's a tool, and as long as you don't use if you use the tool in the correct way, then it can create some lovely things.
Yeah, well, money's a tool too, but look what we've done with it. It's kind of scary, you can't trust human beings. We kind of manage to do things, sort of messed up too often. I don't know what's wrong with us.
Well, sometimes you mess up in the wrong direction.
Right, we seem to keep doing that. Yeah, so that's cool. Anything else?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else.
Okay.
Well, thank you for lending your time to this interview.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the privilege of allowing me to sit down and talk with you today. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks.
It's been very lovely to have you here. You have a lovely personality.
Yeah, over the top is what I usually hear, but that's cool.
Well, I've been described as very over the top as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
There's nothing wrong with being over the top.
All right.
So, this has been Jocelyn Robitaille, and this has been...
And still is Leslie McCurdy.
Thank you for watching.
That was awesome. 2 different paths, both actresses on different roads. But you can see how sometimes the roads come together, don't they? Thank you for viewing this evening of My Story Matters, and a big thanks to New Horizon for Senior Program for making this happen.